Other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind until death. I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind from now until this time tomorrow. I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood. For the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent. I take refuge until Bodhi is reached. By the merit of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness, and the causes of happiness, may they be liberated from suffering, and the causes of suffering, may they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness, and the causes of happiness, may they be liberated from suffering, and the causes of suffering, may they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all other sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness, and the causes of happiness, may they be liberated from suffering, and the causes of suffering, may they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. Bhadra Samaja, Bhadra Samaja, Bhadra Samaja. protectors of all sentient beings without exception, deities who vanquish the ruthless hordes of Maras, knowers of everything as it is, Bhagavans and your retinues. Please come here, Argyam Padyang Pushpe Dupe, Aloke Kende Nevede Shabda. Pratitya Soha, this ground sprinkled with scented waters and strewn with flowers, adorned with the supreme mountain, four continents, sun and moon. I hold in mind as a Buddha land and offer it. May all wandering beings experience such a pure realm. Whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. Please go to the general laying aside. Alas, great Guru Vajraholder, and all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who reside in the 10 directions and 3 times, I, who am called Gonjo Yishidurji, supplicate you turn your awakened attention to me. From beginningless samsaric time until this very moment, under the power of the afflictive emotions, attachment, aggression, confusion, pride, and jealousy, I have committed the 10 non-virtuous actions through the gates of my body, speech, and mind. I have committed the 5 heinous crimes and the 5 secondary heinous crimes. I have transgressed the individual liberation vows, transgressed the precepts of bodhisattvas, and transgressed the samayas of the great vehicle secret mantra. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards the 3 jewels. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my gurus and teachers. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my father and mother. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my companions in the pure spiritual life. I have abandoned the sublime Dharma and disparaged the noble Sangha. In short, I now lay aside all faults and transgressions, whatsoever that have become obstacles to the higher realms and to liberation, and have become the cause of for samsara, the lower realms. Before you, the great Guru Vajra holder, and all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and 3 times, I expose the faults, I confess them, I am contrite, I regret them, I will not conceal them, I will not hide them, henceforth I will restrain myself and abstain from them. If I do not expose and lay them aside, they will not be transformed. Therefore, by revealing and laying them aside, may they be cleared, may I be purified. Namo to the mandala of you, victorious Idam deities. Om, I expose and confess the broken samayas of the Vajra exalted body. Ah, I expose and confess the broken samayas of the Padma exalted speech. Hung, I expose and confess the broken samayas of the perfect exalted mind. Shri, I expose and lay aside the broken root and branch samayas. I expose and lay aside transgressions committed knowingly. I expose and lay aside transgressions committed unknowingly, the three non virtues of the body, the four non virtues of speech, the three non virtues of the mind. I confess each of the 10 non virtues individually. With faultless disciplined conduct, possessing completely pure disciplined conduct, and through the disciplined conduct that is free of arrogance, may the paramita of disciplined conduct be perfected. To glorious Vajrasattva I pay homage. Om Bhajra Sadhasamaya Manapalaya Padasavadinopa Sudogaya Membava Subogaya Membava Anurata Membava Savasidi Membaya Jasavagama Sujamejanam Guru Aho Bhagavan Savadagada Basama Memuja Basibava Mahasamaya Sato Bhajra Sadhasamaya Didame Baba Sudogama Subogaya Memanurata Membava Savasidi Samaya Manobalaya Baza the Nobody the Domi was the Dogaman Zobogam Umbazras and Dosamaya Manaba the Domi Zobogam Bazara Mame Muja Bazaribo Mahasamaya Zato Umbazras and Dosamaya Anora Domi was in the Manager Zavagamas in the Majanam Zanangoro How Maganza with the Gadabazama Mahasamaya Sato but the De Dome Baba Sudoga Zuboga so was it Janam Zanangoro Bazaraza do de nobody da de do me mo so do me mo so bo no so was it Bazaraza do sama yama no bala yama no do de nobody da de do me mo so do me so Bazara mame mo jabazri bo mama sama ya sa do Bazara sa do sama yama no bala Anura do me mo so was it me mo so ma so do De do me mo so do me mo so bo me mo anura do me mo so was it me mo so ma so De do me mo so do me mo so bo me mo anura so was it me mo Bazaraza do de no ba de da de do me ba wa su do ga me ma wa su bo ga me so ze so ma ba su de ba de Bazaraza do sama ma no ba la ya bazara de no ba de su do ga me ba su bo ga me ma de so ze no so Bazaraza do sama ya ma no ba la ya bazara de no ba de da de Anura do me ma so ba ze me ma ja so ga ma su de me je no ze no gu ha o ma ga za ba da ra ga da ga za ma ba ze ma za ra za no de do me ma wa su do ga me ma so bo ga me ma da so ba ze so ma ga ma su De do me mo su do ga me mo su bo ga me mo na ra do me mo sa ba ze me mo ja so ma ga ma su ja ja Om ba za ra sa do sa ma ya ma do ba la ya ba da de ra ba de ra de ra ba su do ma su bo ga Anuradho memo was always the memo just about Ombazraza dosamayama no balayama the Badra Chidamsrayam Guru Hong Hao Makazabadaragadabazama Manubalaya Bazazada de Nobadida de Memo was a domain. Anurado Memo was our Zedememo Guru. Oh, Sabadaragada Bazrama Memuja Bazre Bawa Mahazamaya Sado. Now, the Mahamudra manual. So here in again near Nipa's manual, he gives us two specific common preliminaries, which is the practice of Vajrasattva and the practice of mandala offering. So then, but before those two specific practices, he reminds us to reflect on what later tradition would identify as the four thoughts that turn the mind. And so it's important that we always, even though those words seems simple, those ideas seems like very basic, but in some ways, right, all that we are practicing is to actually help us actualize these four thoughts that turn the mind. And if we are not yet convinced that these four contemplations, these four considerations, really is the Buddha's very profound teachings for us. And that the suffering and the unhappiness that we experience is principally due to not recognizing the truth of these 4 points. So remember that kind of with a little exaggeration, but to make a point. One time, Kyopa Jigden Sungan, he said, when I consider all the pith instructions that I have received, including, pith instructions that I received from my root guru, who is none other than the Buddha himself. He was talking about Pamudrupa. And he said, even considering the pith instructions I received from Lord Pamudrupa, he says, I don't think I ever heard a pith instruction that was more profound than something I heard my mother say to this woman in the neighborhood who lost her husband. He said, my mother said to her, as long as you are not going to set aside this loss, then there is no way you will be free from this pain. So as long as you are not willing to let go, in our words we will say, of this pain, then there is no way to become free from this pain. So even more simple words, without any Dharma vocabulary, without any fancy expression. And Jigten Sungren says, I never heard an instruction, a pith instruction, that is more profound than that statement. So we have to take to heart, these pith instructions. And pith instructions, especially Gyopa says, these so-called preliminaries, the pith instructions found in the so-called preliminaries, they are what is truly profound. All the other teachings that come later, they are just different ways, different tricks, different ways, different skillful means that were designed later to help us actualize, to help us see more clearly the truth that the Buddha pointed to already in these common preliminaries. And so then on the basis of these preliminaries, we cultivate these 5 aspects of Mahamudra, the aspect of bodhicitta, the aspect of idam, then the aspect of guru, devotion to the guru, and the aspect of natural state Mahamudra, and the aspect of dedication. So bodhicitta, with the 3 parts to it, developing, stabilizing, enhancing loving kindness, doing the same for compassion, and then having loving kindness and compassion be the force that will propel us in the direction of committing to achieving Buddhahood for the sake of all beings, and committing to practicing, taking into our experience what we have to in order to achieve that result. So bodhicitta. Then in terms of formal practice, formal cultivation, when we meditate like that, in loving kindness and compassion, and then with the words of giving rise to aspiration and engagement bodhicitta, then the mind is set in that commitment. Commitment, we say, to the result, which is Buddhahood, commitment to the cause, which is the practices, which can be summarized as the practice of the 6 perfections. So again, I think we could distinguish between practices as discrete methods and techniques, and then the real kind of hard work, this hard gym that we're in, really exercising the heart. But in terms of the formal practice session, then with bodhicitta, clear, maybe not very deep, but at least clear on the surface. Now think, this bodhicitta assumes, takes on an appearance. Although you and I have a hard time perceiving other people's thoughts and emotions and states of being, it's not at all outside of our experience to be able to perceive, to feel something is going on with someone. So that is basically what we mean by we're able to see their mental formations playing out. So other beings who have more ability can see these mental formations, can see or in New Age circles, they would say, I don't know these days, maybe this word is a little obsolete, but when I was young, and a good number of you when you were about as young as I was, people talk a lot about aura, that word seemed to have receded in the New Age circles these days. Now energy, vibration. We used to talk about aura, like you can read people's aura, people's energy, people's vibration. In Buddhist terms, these are like the mental formations, the moment to moment formation. And it says, these have forms. That are perceptible to beings who are more sensitive to perceiving this. And so if our bodhicitta now takes on a form, then it should take on the form of a idam, then understanding fully the reasons for appearing as idam, for the sake of others, for the benefit of others. So now is the second aspect of this fivefold. We are appearing in the form of idam. From moment to moment to moment to moment. So don't think of, idam as so difficult in terms of, I need to remember I'm idam at all times. But even if for one moment you remember I am idam, in that moment, you appear as idam, and there are beings who can perceive that idam. And then in the next moment and in the next moment, we continue to go from moment to moment, carrying the identity of a idam. Otherwise, Kyoba Rinpoche, I think in the Chintamani, it says, otherwise you are just carrying a dead body around. That's how he puts it, do you want to carry this dead body around? And this this dead body that we're carrying around, the reason it doesn't stink as much as the other dead body is because we put a lot of effort, into making sure that it doesn't stink. Well, some of us put in more effort than others. And but basically, we're carrying around this dead body. It says, so you have a choice. You carry around this dead body, or you carry around the body or the exalted form of the idam. So better to carry the body of a idam. Then if we just put as much effort, into making sure this dead body don't stink as much, if we just put as much effort, amount of effort into how we put into making sure this doesn't stink too badly. If we put the same amount of effort into how to carry around the exalted form of the idam, you also need to do maintenance work, then, we're doing pretty good already. But the thing is, we don't, right? We don't. But if we're able to give, don't need to be even more, but at least the same amount of resources, time, and attention to maintaining the body of idam that we should carry, then it's pretty good, you know. Then on the basis of really having confidence, having stability, having clarity of yourself as idam and the qualities of the idam, then you approach the guru. You approach the guru. In one instruction that Kyoba Rinpoche composed, I just came across it the other day. It was very nicely put. I now don't exactly remember the words, but I think this is very, very good to take to heart. He was talking about the importance of having a qualified guru, and once such a guru has been found, you will have the challenges of maintaining a pure perception of the guru. And so he starts off this section by, he says, you need to have, the most ideal situation is to have a guru such as the one that I have, he said, referring to Pamodrupa. He says the best scenario is to have such a guru. Absolutely, there's no question of his qualities. Then he said, then it became easy for him to not have to work so hard to perceive Pamodrupa as Buddha. So first of all, Pamodrupa, he says, was a Buddha. Then there is still the matter of how much could he maintain a pure perception of the Guru. So he said, so not so easy. Then he continues and he says, but then, of course, finding such a Guru as Pamodrupa, who on his side, no doubt, is Buddha, he says it's not easy. So more likely is you're going to have someone of lesser abilities. Then he talked of one situation where one of his contemporaries, it's a contemporary as in, I think this person, I don't exactly, I need to do a little bit more reading. He turns up again from time to time in some of these texts. The impression that you get is like he was a student of Jigten Sumgön, but such that he was also like maybe a fellow student of Jigten Sumgön, So meaning he's not someone who is clearly like one generation down. So clearly like junior to Jigten Sumgön. He was hovering in that area of, eventually he took Jigten Sumgön as guru, but he also had other gurus who were Jigten Sumgön's guru. It's a figure like that. Takmapa, I think was his name. But he says that in Takmapa's case, when he had this very intense experience of devotion to a different person at that time. Mm, big problems arose for him. Big problems arose for him. At least like the short-term problem. And in fact, this person died. But of course, for you and me, we're like, oh my God, that's a terrible problem. But you have to understand, what's one lifetime? Nothing. Yeah. So, Jigten Sumgun's way, and this is not just Jigten Sumgun, this is like, if you really understand, what all these teachings are saying, you're not that attached to this one lifetime. But nonetheless, the point of that account is that then Jigten Sumgun made a comment, he said, yeah, because he didn't, the object of his devotion wasn't free from faults, like Mahamudra. Therefore, when intense devotion went towards someone with a mixed qualities, uh, the devotion that went to the qualities, of course, helped this person uh, not lost, but the faults that this person has also met with that intense devotion, also gave rise to some temporary problems, which manifested in this person dying. Yeah. Now, what's the best part of this? And this is not the best part for me. What caught my attention? What caught my attention was Kyoba says. And so he gave a very kind of like, almost you could say, kind of a scary example. Say, yeesh, so maybe I should not simply have devotion for anyone. That was part of what he was saying too. Don't just simply have devotion for anyone. But of course, he was giving an example that was very strong. Tamapa, despite, like the error he made, is actually very advanced. And when the more advanced you are, the more you need to have the strength to handle all these. But here's the thing that Kyoba said. He said, then he went on to discuss this devotion to the Guru. Then he said, bottom line is this. The likelihood of meeting someone like Mahamudra, yes, is low. So you have to weigh out. So it's quite, in a way, reasoned. He says you have to assess who has more qualities than faults. And the more their qualities outweigh their faults, then the better. And then he says, yes, I know. And then you say, didn't you just say, as long as they have faults, those faults could kind of hit back? He says, that can be prevented by not at all attached to samsara. And he's talking about the disciple. He said, the more you are not attached to samsara, the lesser you will be affected by. If the guru doesn't, has not yet cleared all their obscurations. This statement to me is actually very, quite a bit to kind of think about. So leaving aside things like, oh, this devotion was so powerful, then because it went in the direction of someone who still has faults and a mix of faults, but then they pass away. Okay, leaving aside that, I think the statement that if the disciple is working on being less and less attached to samsara, then even if the object of their devotion is a guru that doesn't have all the qualities and have not cleared all the faults, the disciple will be less vulnerable to, you could say, side effects for the medicine that they're taking. And it shows, like psychologically, if you have an agenda or agendas outside of the terms of this relationship, so translation, if you have samsaric reasons to be close to this teacher, to be devoted to this teacher, then because this teacher still has faults to clear, it will trigger your samsaric nonsense. But if you have less of like hidden agendas, including yourself, like not knowing, some of these hidden agendas, then there will be less side effects. Does this make sense? Yeah. Yeah. So this is what he's saying. So if you have very strong devotion to someone like Mahamudra, then absolutely, not absolutely, well, maybe not absolutely, but if you have very strong devotion to someone like Mahamudra, then you can be fairly sure no negative side effects will come. Then if you have very strong devotion to someone with mixed uh, strong negative side effects may come. But the point is, like, you should not fear that, because you can protect yourself by the power of weariness towards samsara. Right? Now, another way of putting like weariness towards samsara, or disgust towards samsara, if you don't like, how negative it sounds, then you can frame it as commitment to bodhicitta. Now, of course, commitment to bodhicitta has its, it can get slippery. Again, for some of us, it triggers up a messiah complex. Dong, 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 I'm going to save the world. As I said before, religious people often, mildly, maybe mildly to strongly, uh, more deluded about self-grandeur than non-religious types. So you've got to watch out for that. So bodhicitta can trigger that, tong tong tong, I'm going to come save the world. But being tired of samsara and having bodhicitta, they are two sides of the same coin. And you can use one to balance the other, to check the other. So to approach the guru, as long as we do the more basic work, then we can prevent negative side effects from arising. And even though there are risks, it's a worthwhile risk. Because if we don't start training or going into that territory, then yes, we will not have to experience negative side effects, but we also will not progress. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, there is a way to practice this, again, with minimizing risks. So one already, in this context, Kyoba says, if you have real renunciation mind, then even if the guru isn't like someone like Mahamudra, you can prevent negative side effects from becoming so strong that it would derail you. That's the bottom line. You should not be afraid of any and all negative side effects. You should be develop the courage, the bravery, the toughness, to face some negative side effects, but also knowing how to prevent bigger negative side effects. The other prevention of negative side effects is think of Guru as Buddha Shakyamuni, think of Guru as Vajradhara, think of Guru as the completely pristine nature of mind. These are the three Kaya Gurus. Don't worry about who is the human Guru, who is the human Guru. Leave that aside. In the case of these materials, 12th century, 13th century, 14th century, even 17th century, because of their context, they have no choice. They always start with the human guru. Their circumstances so different. When you read some of these older texts, you can see that it's quite clear that they're working from a slightly different circumstance. First of all, the educational level of the general public was very low. And the monastery is one of the places, in fact, one of very few places that you could learn how to read. Many monasteries don't even teach you how to write. Like, when I just said that, I think most of you will be like, what do you mean? Yes. Tibet is a literate culture that, for the most part, discourage people from learning how to write, but to read in the monastic. In the monastic context. They don't encourage people to learn how to actually write. My One of my graduate professors, Professor Jeffrey Hopkins, has passed away, one of the giants of the early Western academic study of Tibetan Buddhism, the one who founded the Tibetan Studies program at the University of Virginia. I remember him telling the story that early when Tibetans came into exile and early in his immersion in that culture in India, uh, he he said that he learned that so during one meeting, when some of the greatest geshes of the Gelugpa lineage, the greatest scholars of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, when they had a gathering in Dharamsala or somewhere, and then at this conference, they started doing some Western style things, which is like signing a sheet, more ceremonial. People come in, they sign their names. It was fashionable at one time. I'm sure some of you remember. You know, going to these things, you sign on the thing, sign. Everyone, oh, look, signature. And they said like majority of these geshes didn't know how to sign their own names. And Jeffrey talked about how shocked he was. Like some of the greatest minds alive, uh, great intellectuals, great scholars, cannot write their name properly because they were discouraged from right. See, such a different, right? Such a different background. So my point was that in this early sources, when they write about reliance on the guru, they come from a different place. They necessarily start with guru as a human. That's not necessarily our situation. And so, for us, we do not need to, since that is not our given, no need to contrive that. No need to try to, or no need to force yourself into that. Instead, we begin where we begin. So we begin by. And in that way, our manuals are quite fitting because our manuals tell us, you begin, the Nirmanakaya is Buddha Shakyamuni, right? So let's go look at that section now. The Nirmanakaya is Buddha Shakyamuni. So train in thinking, Buddha Shakyamuni is always here to guide us. Then, and that is, then there is this, a formal practice that you can do, starting on page 34. Then I pointed out how in the recitations that are given in that section, uh, what what you see is at this level, uh, and this in a way takes into account, right, the Tibetan situation when this text was composed, which is quite easily and the general pattern, the guru is a human person. But here it says instead of relating to this human person in a samsaric way, you should transform that connection into you and Buddha Shakyamuni. Into you and Buddha Shakyamuni. Another way of putting it is, maybe in simpler terms, is only learn the right things. When it says, don't see any faults, it's not saying, pretend that uh, the negative actions that they're doing are the same, are the negative actions that you should do. Right? They're saying, don't learn that from this person. Don't learn the negative things. But then, if you are seeing more negative things than positive things, then don't 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 take this person as your spiritual reference point. Then Sambhogakaya. Now, in the way that Vajradhara or Vairochana is less of a historical figure than Shakyamuni, now in a way, your sense of what Guru is should also transcend the limited human. You see actually a movement here in the three kaya Guru Yoga here. So even though the technique might feel like, oh, it's the same, first you visualize Shakyamuni, then next level you visualize Vairochana, then next level transcend space and time, no form even, Dharmakaya, nature of your own mind. And these three steps is already telling us, that we are relying on the outer guru to experience a more timeless presence of guru, to finally experience the always present mind of the guru, which is the nature of your own mind. Then that takes us to page 40, Guru as Dharmakaya. So third, accomplishing the Guru as Dharmakaya within that very state. So this is after you have trained the historically grounded example of Guru, Buddha Shakyamuni, to the more subtle, more timeless aspect of Guru, Vajradhara, now to the truly timeless, not limited. Within that very state, leave the mind unaltered. So now, nothing to fix. So this is also, like no longer, at this level, you can say, it doesn't bother you anymore, whether you see qualities, whether you see faults. These qualities and faults are the qualities and faults of your own mind, but you don't need to alter them anymore, because they actually have less power over you now. Do not manipulate outer appearances. Do not contrive the inner mind itself. Destroy the stain of the intellect that grasps at meditation. So even the idea of meditating, cultivating, destroy that. Let body, speech, and mind relax into their natural state. In principle, you can do that right now without doing all these other things. In practice, very hard. In principle, once you know how to operate a vehicle, a car, you can drive anywhere. Practical terms, don't try it in Lima, don't try it in Kathmandu, don't try it in Bangkok. Hmm? Go to some small town where there is only one traffic light in the whole county. Hmm? Go there and work on your skills. Then you can drive in Kathmandu. You can drive in Lima. You can drive in Bangkok and not be bothered at all. You will not be stressed. You will not want to kill someone, and you will not be killed by someone. And so now, so in the same way, like when it says here, leave the mind unaltered, because you have purified, you have cleared uh, the more kind of gross, obvious stains. And so this like outer appearance and inner mind is all also related to how you have been perceiving the guru. At first, there's faults, there's qualities. But then, if you only perceive the guru as only having qualities, right? Then, in fact, some of us might think, oh, I only see qualities. But it could be for samsaric reasons. I really like this person. He's easy on the eyes. Ooh. And then we think, this is because we have seen uh, their qualities. But no, just their physical qualities or even their emotional qualities. Like, oh, I really like that. Because my parents didn't give enough attention to me. And finally, I found someone uh, who is like a parent to me. Well, that's not Guru Yoga. And then substitute, right? Whatever uh, worldly relations that is unsatisfying, right? You project. But by working, by knowing how to use, knowing how to train in these specific trainings that give rise to states of the heart. Yeah, your mind now at the level of Guru as Dharmakaya, uh, you don't need to alter it anymore, or so much. You have now gained some kind of stability and understanding that these outer appearances and the mind that perceive them, and the meditation that we are using to try to, calm things down, all of that, right? You have more ability now to put them all in their right places. The work is not done yet. This is at the gateway into natural state Mahamudra. Yeah, the work is not done yet. In a way, the work is just starting. Let body, speech, and mind relax into their natural state. Page 41. The innately abiding mind itself, utterly pure, luminous Mahamudra, and the consciousness that apprehends the Guru, apprehends this, perceives this, sees this, which arises unceasingly from that state, are liberated inseparably, like water poured into water or butter mixed with butter. So that aspect that is perceiving that reality So there's the aspect that is perceiving the reality, that is the reality that manifests. See that they are one. Thus, body and speech and mind do not abide anywhere. Non arising is Dharmakaya, the aspect of seeing how all these comings and goings of thoughts, emotions, feelings, if you're able to see their birthless nature, that is seeing the Dharmakaya. But to see how they are non ceasing, although they are in essence without arising, without birth, but that they continue non ceasing, that is the Sambhogakaya. Non abiding, meaning, uh, in fact, although superficially we think they are here, and they are here and they're not there, they're there and they're not here, when you can see that they actually don't abide anywhere, like rainbows, then you now really understand what nirmanakayas are, what tukus are. Not tuku, the political monastic institution, but truly tukus, nirmanakayas. Their inseparability is the swabhavikakaya, the natural body. The sublime guru is the very nature of one's own mind. To accomplish this very nature without distraction is to accomplish Dharmakaya. These words, the style of these words, we will start to see more and more in the next part, the natural state Mahamudra. But here, this natural state is introduced to us in the context of relating to our guide, our guru, Buddha Shakyamuni, Buddha Vajradhara, and the pristine nature of our minds, of the minds of others. And 42. The ultimate intellect transcending mind itself is Dharmakaya, primordially pure, birthless, and uncompounded. Its nature is luminous, naturally present suchness. Unspoiled by the stains of adventitious thoughts, it is a state of non-conceptuality, undefiled great bliss, and peace. Having abandoned the effort of object of meditation and meditator, one rests loosely and uncontrived in the great inseparability. This inexpressible intellect transcending Mahamudra is the sublime Guru, the indivisible three kayas. By it one is virtuous over maras and afflictive emotions, and with its nature, an ocean of immeasurable qualities, the victorious ones have explained this as the supreme unsurpassed accomplishment. From the Atikoda Tantra, the Guru who is endowed with kindness, whoever cultivates him at the crown of their head, the palm of their hand, or in the center of their heart, that individual will come to possess even the qualities of 1,000 Buddhas. Therefore, since it is the root Guru who gives rise to all exalted qualities, it is crucial to see the actions of his exalted body, speech, and mind as exalted qualities, and to hold whatever he says as valid and authoritative. Chiefly, uh, what he says in the next section, which is the instructions for the natural state Mahamudra. Uh, Not, things he says about, how to, grow better vegetables, how to fix the politics of the country, how to, solve your plumbing problems. Sometimes we are confused, we think, and this is partly because of cultural. In fact, yes, in Tibetan society, those who function as lamas, often, not always, are also the most educated people in the whole area, educated in so many things, you know. But the main education they need is not uh, how to fix the politics of the country, how to grow vegetables, uh, or how to plumb, but the mind. 44. The co-emergent cannot be expressed by others and cannot be found anywhere at all. The co-emergent nature. But it is to be known by relying on the Guru's skillful means and the right time. So this translation has it as right time, but it's actually more literally, it is to the end of time. And here the translation, there are a few readings for this. One that I think expresses it more directly is, it is to serve the Guru to the end of time, literally. But it's in the commentaries that they say, what does it mean to serve the Guru to the end of time? It means to see to the very limit. And what is the limit? The end limit of the Guru? Dharmakaya. And through one's own merit. So this very famous quote from the Hevaja Tantra that is repeated in many places in Mahamudra and Dzogchen instructions. And from the Samaya arrangement Tantra, compared to cultivating the completion stage for an eon, while having abandoned hustle, bustle, and distraction, cultivating the Guru in the center of your mind for just a single instant does not compare to even a fraction of 2,000,000 times. Finally, on 45, if you cultivate intensely on the Master at your heart, by this, awakening will be attained. It is the siddhi of great wonder. The exalted body and speech and mind will be accomplished. All of this really is to build up your confidence in what the Guru will instruct you in this next section, the completion stage, which is the natural state Mahamudra. So today we're going to stop here. So this next section, like each of the sections, it will begin with a quote from the Fivefold Mahamudra song by Jigten Sungten. So you should be familiar, with this song. Again, I want to remind you, various times we have shared in the WhatsApp group this one small booklet that was compiled of like brief instructions and comments and teachings that Kyabje Nubar Rinpoche gave about the Fivefold Mahamudra, collected from a period of, maybe 20 years. And his disciples collected them and then edited and then published the translation about a year ago. So we have shared the PDF. I think that is a very useful. It's really more kind of like from experience, that kind of pith instructions. So please, use that as your supporting uh, text. Yeah. Okay. Now, dedication on page 78. By the virtues collected in the three times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtues, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. Changchu Samcho Rinpoche Ma Ge Ba Na Ge Gyu Che Ge Ba Nyam Ba Be Ba Yang Gong Ne Gong Du Bel War Shu. Okay, see you tomorrow. We should be able to meet tomorrow. So Monday today, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Thursday is my travel day. So Thursday we will not meet, and then Friday we won't. Then maybe next Monday we will resume. By that time I'll be in Cusco, which has same time as Asheville. So it's a matter of figuring out the internet there. Also want you all to be aware of this, be on the lookout. We are working to see if we're able to offer Zoom participation in the teachings that will be occurring in Cusco. And I've already asked John to create a landing page for people to register to participate in those teachings. Because to simplify things, we will have only one registration for both weekends. Right now, the first weekend I'm scheduled to do that weekend so that Rinpoche can rest. Because of elevation, we are a little concerned about his blood pressure and his ability to rest, So for the very first weekend, he will not teach, so I will do that. Then the second weekend he will. But we have created a landing page for registration. So if you have registered before for Urban Dharma programs, it will be the same system. This is a way to, give people access to joining us, but also it's a little experimental because we don't know how stable the internet is. And then whatever we collect from that registration, we will direct all of that to the Dharma Center in Cusco. And so it's also a way to help the Dharma Center to, get the financial support that it needs. Yeah. In some way, we can say, the Dharma Center right now is what we would say land rich, rich in land, in property, so to say, in a way, but then not rich, It's like poor people living in a rich area, like many of us, So then we still need to find ways to maintain, like any centers, we find we're looking for ways to maintain. Yeah? So anyway, stay tuned. Once I have that information, I'll share. Okay. Okay. Bye bye.